Hey, and welcome to today's video where we answer the question, what strategy is best for me? Now, that's a very common question, and the answer of that would be dependent upon what it is you want from property. So the question that I would then ask you is, what do you want from property? I couldn't possibly tell you what sandwich to eat is what is the most delicious sandwich to eat if I don't even know what kind of flavors that you like. You know what I'm saying? So in order for me to answer that question, I need to know what it is that you want to achieve from property. Now, there are two different types of people. There's people who have time and who don't have time. There's people who love their job and some who hate their job. There's people who have money and there's people who have no money. So depending on what it is, or depending on what your motivations are, will then be dependent upon which route you take. So let's paint an example so we can start looking at certain things. So maybe you can, start get an idea of what strategy is right for you. There was a gentleman who I recently spoke to on the phone, and he was in a career that he absolutely loved. Didn't want to change it. So all he wanted to do is invest the money that he had. He managed to save a couple of thousand, or around 100,000, and he wanted to put it into something, but wasn't too really sure what he wanted to do. But he knew one thing: he didn't want to quit his job, and therefore he was time poor, but he had some money to invest and therefore cash rich. So what's the best strategy for me to explore? Well, I said, I don't know, but I can tell you what's out there. And I do know that if you want to do something like rent to rent, or maybe serviced accommodation, or even deal sourcing, to a certain extent, there is going to be some time input that you're going to have to put in order to start getting the success from your business. You will not be able to walk into this strategy without putting a good amount of time in before you start seeing some success. And that may be because you have to find those landlords. It might be because you have to go and find those investors who you then got to sell the deal onto, or maybe find tenants who you then got to put into the property. So you do have to do a little bit of work. And he said, absolutely no way. I don't want to do that. And I said, okay, I totally understand. He's working almost 80 hours a week. I'm sure you ain't got no time for that, right? So then what else is out there, right? You have £100,000 to pay with. What else is out there? So they said, well, maybe you can look at building a portfolio. You only have one property, because he only had one property so far, and it was not also maximized. He wasn't really making much money on the property either. But he loved the idea of, building a portfolio, right? He thought, yes, if I build a portfolio, if I get some buy-to-lets, right, especially using the BRR strategy, right, where you purchase the property, and he liked the idea of doing buy-to-lets, because with a buy-to-let, you can purchase it in a way where if you get it cheap enough, although it may not be worth that currently, but you get it just below what it's worth, you can spend a little bit of money on it, do it up, increase that value, and then go to the bank, refinance on that property, and get the money that you originally put in back out. So not only are you going to spend this money that you have in property, creating yourself an investment that will pay you over years and years and years of ownership, but also you get the money back. Hello, that sounds amazing, right? So that strategy was best for him because that was his situation. He wasn't in a job that he wanted to quit. He loved it, and he also had a lot of cash to play with. So hey, let's do that. And over a period of time, he can purchase 4 at a time. He can do 1 at a time. He can be very, flexible how he does that. He can also look at doing HMOs. HMOs where you purchase a HMO, or you can purchase a 3-bedroom house. You can purchase an existing HMO. That would be £100,000 is enough for a deposit, more than enough for a deposit where I'm based, right, in Swansea. But if not, you can also purchase a 3-bedroom house and then renovate it into a HMO, go through the whole planning application and do it that way as well. Or you could purchase a block of flats. And I'm not talking like a large block of flats, like a block, I'm talking over myself here. I'm so excited about this. But you can purchase a building that has 3 flats in, 4 flats in, optimize it even more, right? So you can buy, because there are some properties here that have flats and they are run down, okay, to the ground, where even I won't live in it, I won't let my dog live in it, I won't let the dog's dog live in it, nobody gonna live in the house, right? And they are letting these out right now to students, right? So you can get these houses, really maximize on it by doing a renovation, refinancing, and again, getting your money back, right? So that would be a strategy that I would tell someone who has a bit of cash to play with. They have some money to play with. They don't necessarily want to get their hands dirty themselves in terms of having to, be out and about every day trying to find, below market value properties and then trying to find the investor and trying to merge the two. Doesn't want to do that. I just want to find, just find a house for yourself. Just find a house for yourself. If you completely don't have no time and you're in that scenario, or you're in that situation, then you can work with people who can find the house for you. They can find the deals for you. They can even manage the renovation. Okay, I mean, what more do you want? And all they ask is for a small fee to do that for you. Okay, they even let it out for you, and that's a service I offer here in Swansea. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to holler at me. But otherwise, if you're someone who doesn't want to stay in their job, they want to quit their job, they want to replace their income, they can't stand working where they're working, they don't really have much money either, maybe £2,000, maybe £3,000, maybe £5,000, then you can look at strategies like rent to rent, deal sourcing particularly. I like deal sourcing, but also rent to rent and serviced accommodation. But with these strategies, you need to get clued up. You need to know what it is you're doing. You need to understand the legalities. How do you form yourself? How do you form yourself as a company? So and then get the right, not accreditations, but get the right memberships. You got to be registered with the property regis scheme. You got to have anti-money laundering if you're going to be a deal sourcer. There are certain things and certain ways you got to set yourself up in order to be deal sourcing legitimately. That's a strategy that you can take. Why do I like that strategy? I like it because not only are you going around finding deals, but you're also providing yourself an opportunity to be able to work with investors as in joint ventures. So you can also expand on your service as well. You don't have to be limited to just deal sourcing. So, you might want to find a deal a month. You might want to find a deal every 2 months, right? There's ways you can automate that process so you're not necessarily working heavily in the business, especially if you're working a 9 to 5. You can, leverage by using virtual assistants who would then go and find a property that fits your criteria. They set up all your marketing for you. They take in the emails, inquiries that come in and sort them out and then send them over to you. So all you do now is get an email on your lap from your virtual assistant that has already had the research done. It's already done all the comparables for you. And you then know what to do when you go to call the homeowner or the estate agent. All right, you got to do, you can also deal source through estate agents. I actually like that route too. It's a lot quicker than going, setting up the whole marketing areas. But these are the type of things that you need to take into consideration. So when I say rent to rent, what is rent to rent, right? Because I'm saying rent to rent, I'm saying buy to lets, I'm saying serviced accommodation. I'm not really explaining what these things are. So with a serviced accommodation, I'll start with serviced accommodation. I just realized how I switched. With a serviced accommodation, you are taking on a property that is already owned by a landlord. They want to keep that property, and you are going to take on that property and pay them a monthly amount. From there, you take over the maintenance, you take over the bills. Maintenance up to a certain amount, not all of the maintenance, but up to a certain amount. So the landlords still have their responsibilities, but you would take it on up to a certain amount. Then you would then rent it out per night on a nightly rate. So it might be, 2 nights, 3 nights, it could be even months, but you're renting it out on a nightly rate. And people who would usually take on those properties would be people who are visiting a particular area for business or visiting a particular area for leisure. Maybe, boyfriend and girlfriend going out for a meal, they want to do Valentine's, they book your property. Or it could be a business trip, someone's got a business meeting or a business transaction they got to complete on, they book your property, right? Those are the type of scenarios for serviced accommodation. I just want to, you can't really talk about what strategy without talking about the strategies, you know what I'm saying? So that's a great strategy. Service accommodation, fantastic, especially during Corona, because with Corona, there's a lot of people who still have to isolate, okay? And these properties are going for 2 weeks at a time, right? So I've had inquiries where someone wants to book for somewhere 2 weeks at a time on a nightly rate. Talk about cha-ching, right? I'm not complaining at all. Then you've got rent to rent, and rent to rent is where you are again taking on someone else's house. So they stay the owner, they stay the landlord, they still have some of their landlord responsibilities around maintenance, around registrations and so forth. But you then become the manager, right? You then take on that property and you become the manager. And then you then rent out that property by the room. So with rent to rent, you've got to ensure that you can maximize on that house legally. I'm always talking about legals. I just can't talk about property without talking about the legal factor, really. You know what I'm saying? But you've got to make sure you can maximize on the house, right? Turning it into a multi-let, turning it into a HMO if it's not already a HMO, and then renting it out by the rooms. So say, for example, someone owns a house, they say, look, pay me £1,000 a month, you can have this house, it's all yours. Now imagine that house has 5 bedrooms or 6 bedrooms. Right, hold on, 5 bedrooms again. 5 bedrooms or 6 bedrooms. And then, you know, you're getting £500 per month per room. Or even just below. You would be making 2,500. And if it's 6 bedrooms and you're making £3,000 a month, you pay him as £1,000, you're left with 2,000. Then you got bills, round that up to £500. You know the numbers. You know the numbers. That's a decent profit right there. But it's not always plain sailing like that. Obviously, you have maintenance issues. You have void periods because rooms don't always stay filled 100% of the time. Sometimes people are moving in and out, and that's the thing with rent to rent. There is a high turnover, so that means there is a lot of management that's involved in a rent to rent. If you can give it to another agent to manage where they're, you know, a managing agent who manages that process for you, then that's ideal. But if not, and you're managing it, then it's going to be hands-on because you're going to have to be drawing up contracts when someone moves in and someone moves out. You're going to be having to get the cleaner in to clean, and someone's got to send her that email, right? That's going to be you. And there's also a lot of other things that you have to do, you know, in terms of maintenance. When issues come about, you need to be able to manage those within a timely manner. So there is a lot of management and a lot of involvement. And that's why I said that first scenario, that first situation that I mentioned, where someone's in a full-time working position and they love their job and they just want to have their money working for them, but they don't necessarily want to do the work. I'm telling you right now, I would not be doing no rent to rent. Okay, unless you're going to work with someone where you give them the money, or you set up a joint venture partnership together and then you guys work together, but your role is not to be doing the work, your role is just to be given the money and they do the work, then it can work. Right? But if it's you and you want to invest and you know you don't want to have to be working with anyone else, then I suggest you definitely do not do no rent to rent. So, but for the new person who does want to get at their job, maybe they are in a 9 to 5, you're going to have to be willing to put some hours in. Yeah, I'm not even going to tell you it's going to be a walk in the park. Be ready to put some hours in, get your first rent to rent, and you know, the quickest way as well, you know, anyway, I'm going into processes. I can't really say this without going into processes, because the process would also help you make a decision as what route you take. So it really does depend on what it is that you want to achieve from property as to what route you're going to take, okay? Either way, if you want to invest in property and eventually replace your income, all of those strategies can do that for you. All of them, or every single rent to rent can replace your income, service accommodation can replace your income, lease options can replace your income, you know, all of them can replace your income. It's how do I get there? How do I want to replace my income? What do I got to do? If you haven't got much money, then you are going to have to put the work in. If you've got the money, you work with someone else and let them put the work in. You work with a service provider and let them put the work in, okay? And that's how you can do it. And again, be prepared to put the work in, right? Roll up them sleeves, honey, for the rent to rent. Go and get yourself educated so you can establish yourself legitimately, properly understand the processes that are in place, right? When it comes to bookings, when it comes to management, maintenance, so you can understand this process, and then it can be a lot more easier for you to do. But you know, there it is. It does depend on what it is you want to do. But I think if you don't have money, you want to get out your job, you want to replace your income, consider doing deal sourcing, rent to rent, service accommodation. And if you have a lot of money, love your job, and you really don't want to be quitting your job, then build your portfolio, get a block of flats, add some value to it and sell it. And again, if you don't have the time to do that, find someone who can do it for you. It's very easy. I'm here. There's people in various different areas of the UK who offer exact same services I do, and you can then multiply and invest in property that way. Okay, but I hope you find this video useful, because that is a very common question. What strategy do I do? But you do have to be honest and look at your time, look at your money, and then decide what route is best for you. But I've hope I've narrowed it down for you, at least a little bit, so you know exactly what it is to do. And this is just one more thing. Can I just say this? Rent to rent and service accommodation is pretty much the same thing, okay? It's pretty much the same thing. So don't get caught up in, do I do service accommodation? Do I do rent to rent? It's pretty much the same thing, okay? One is long-term stays, one is daily stays, right? And how you manage them, pretty much the same thing again. You get the cleaner to do your service accommodation. It can be a lot more hands-off, but you might have a lot more void periods. Whereas if you're rent to rents, again, you would need someone to manage that for you if you really don't have the time to be going in, checking out, because that's a process in itself. But if you don't have the time to do that, then you can either find an agent who does, and maybe pay them per move in and pay them per checkout, right? Leverage your time. That's the key thing here. So I hope you found this video very useful and informative. If you like this channel, please subscribe, because there's no way I'm gonna know you like this content unless you don't hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Also, I'm doing 8:30 Monday motivation calls where we talk about one particular thing that you can take in for the week. So it might be raising your standards, it might be changing your limited beliefs, it might be understanding what delayed gratification is all about and start practicing it, because people want to get rich like yesterday and don't really want to put the work in. But no, you got to miss out for a little bit. You got to miss out for a little bit. You understand? You got to be tight in the corner for a little bit, and then you can flourish, right? Then you can go and buy all you want and spend all the money how you want, right? But delayed gratification and a lot more other things, and it's just to get your mind right, just set you up straight for the week. Okay, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I cannot wait to see you in another video. Take care. Bye.